Welcome back to the Kenyan High Schooler. This is from KCSE to Architecture, Bachelor of Architecture, and let's get started. So, as always, we start by asking ourselves a few questions. First one, what is architecture as a career and am I ready for it? What are the admission requirements to study this career in Kenya? What are the costs and where can I actually enroll? What are the stages and duration of pursuing this degree? And what career opportunities and specialties can one explore in this field? And let's do this. So, what is architecture as a career? Architecture basically focuses on designing and planning buildings, spaces, and structures to be functional, safe, and aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so what do you expect if you are to study architecture? What do you expect to find in that particular course? You expect to find core subjects including design. So design is the process of creating plans, drawings, or models that outline how a building or structure will look and function. Okay. You also expect to study construction methods, which are techniques and processes used to build structures, including how materials are put together and the systems employed to ensure the building is functional and safe. Okay, we also study building materials, whereby these are the physical substances used in construction, such as wood, steel, concrete, glass, and stone. Then you have what we call architectural history, by the study of the evolution of architecture, examining past architecture styles, methods, and the cultural and historical context in which buildings were created. You also expect to have a bit of studio work, whereby you'll be creating designs and the 3D models, which are the digital representation of objects or buildings in 3 dimensions, often created using specialized software, okay, like the AutoCAD. You also expect to have creative thinking because you'll be balancing beauty, functionality, and sustainability in designs. You also practice learning, where you have field trips to construction sites and internship with architectural firms, okay. You also have interdisciplinary knowledge, whereby you will be dealing with a mix of engineering principles, and art and environmental space, because the integration of knowledge from various fields like engineering, art, and environmental science to create well-rounded and functional architectural design is going to be key. Let us debunk some myths here. Architects just draw pretty buildings. That is false. The reality is that architects solve complex problems like energy efficiency, structural integrity, and urban planning. Okay? Something else to note is that you don't need math for architecture. That is a myth. The reality is that math is essential for measurements, scaling, and structural calculations. So that's cool. Now you're in love with architecture, so what next? Let's get to admission requirements for the Kenyan students. So we have what we call a direct entry, okay, whereby you have need to have a minimum KCC grade of a B or a B plus. However, the competition is real, hence we urge you to score highly. Of course, when you go to the books, you may hear, oh, you can still do it to the C plus and so on and so forth. I don't want to dispute that, but again, what will make you not do it to the C plus despite it being written in the books is the simple word competition. If you're not competitive, you cannot get to the score. As I've usually said in our other videos, be sure to watch all other careers so that you can be able to select wisely. And please don't forget to subscribe, like that button, please do that just right now, because it really goes a long way to ensure that this work is appreciated in that manner. Let's get back. So we think that the course will actually calculate your points using what we call raw marks. Okay, that will later give us what we call a cutoff point here. Before we get to the cutoff points, that is the first thing. They will use the raw marks, and then they will have what we call an overall grade. Overall grade, for instance, an A, a B, or a B plus of whatever points is also going to be very key in determining your cutoff points. Something else that is going to be very key is the cluster subjects, whereby we have what we call cluster subjects are those subjects that have been set aside by a certain regulatory body to ensure that those who are pursuing a certain degree have met those minimum requirements, so that you don't go to do a degree that you don't even have the simple basics with you. So for architecture, the simple basics are English or Kiswahili. One of them is a mandatory and one of them must have been passed to have a B plus or at least higher than that, at least in one of them. Mathematics similar, you must have at least a B plus in mathematics, and it is mandatory for you to actually have maths, then physics or geography. So according to the different universities, it can pick either, and at least you have to pass again a B plus or higher in one of them, and then any other that you have done well. So any other subject that you did quite well, they will pick that as their fourth cluster subject. So these cluster subjects will be calculated together with an overall grade that you got using the raw marks. Raw marks means that you might have two people who scored A planes, but their raw marks are different. This is an A plane of 85, another one is an A plane of 100%, like it's possible in mathematics. So those points or those that difference in the raw marks will actually influence the difference in the cutoff points. The one with 100% will have a higher cutoff than the one with an 85. Unfortunately, that formula to calculate these cutoff points is a hidden formula because, and even if it is known, you cannot be able to calculate your cluster points effectively, a cutoff points effectively because you don't have your own marks, which are only known to Coops and neck. So the best thing is to work hard. So at the end of the day, you're on a safer spot. Okay. So this cutoff is what will actually say that, oh, you know what, you can be able to do this course in a competitive university, for instance, like University of Nairobi, or you know what, you can only do this in another university that is not competitive, or even you cannot even do this course in Kenya, in this country. So that is key. So from there, with alternative pathways other than the direct entry, you have what to call the diploma holders. Diploma in architecture, a relevant field from a recognized institution with a credit or a distinction can actually pursue. Okay, or a degree holder in an architecture field can be allowed to pursue a bachelor in architecture, as long as you go to transfer those particular credits as well. For the foreigners, you must meet equivalent qualifications in your high school system, e.g., A levels or international systems. You obtain a certificate of equivalency from NEC. You have to also to show proficiency in English, and you have to apply directly to university. These we usually advocate very much. Okay. So I have now gotten to the admission requirements. I'm now admitted. So how am I going to be admitted to study, and where am I going to actually study architecture? So we have public universities and private universities. Public universities include UON, Moi University, KU, Egerton University, JKUAT. Okay. For the private universities, we have Strathmore, MKU, Quea, Riara, Desta, and so forth and so on. Of course, we may have others that are not here, but these are the main and they are the ones that are known. Okay. So something else to note is that for you to be able to actually get into this university, you can only get into these universities in two ways. The first of those ways is through COOPS that we've kept on explaining, whereby you have been competitive enough and COOPS has seen it possible that it is going to give you a government scholarship. So this is one of the ways you find yourself in these universities. The other way is through self-sponsorship. So if you don't meet this competition, if you're thrown out of the competition, but you still want to do this course, you can do it through self-sponsorship. It can either be in the locals, which is Kenyan, or the foreigners, which are those visitors from abroad. Okay, so I have not selected the university. So what is the sponsorship like? What is the sponsorship like? So we see we have what we call a government sponsorship, whereby the quota per university. Each public university has a limited number of government sponsor slots, which is usually allocated by groups. Okay, and you find that the number varies yearly based on the national need and the funding. So, for instance, the University of Nairobi may admit only 100 government-sponsored students, while small universities may only admit 50 to 80 students. And this is what makes the competition very tough. Because if we have applied 200 of us, and some of us have scored very highly, then those of us who have not scored highly are going to be eliminated based on that competition. And the same is worse even in the smaller universities. Okay. Something else to note is that private universities out of this era will only admit the self-sponsored students and not a government-sponsored student. So once you are thrown out by this competition, you now get to the self-sponsored, whereby you will be fully funded by your parent, guardian, or financial institution. You have to apply directly to the university, and you have to apply early. This is something I keep on repeating. If you're going through this route, you have to apply as early as you can because competition is real even for the self-sponsored. Okay, so don't sit down and say, "Ah, they will not, refuse my money. I don't know what." Remember, it is competition everywhere. So apply directly and you apply early in as much as you're still waiting even for COOPS to reply. Please do it as early as you can. So what's the cost like? At 2024, the locals will have to pay around 250,000 to about 600,000. That is for the tuition fees. Of course, it keeps on vary. This is just a range, but most of them fall within this range. can confirm from their websites because, of course, it keeps on changing. So, I have gotten in love with architecture. I have been admitted. I have gotten my sponsorship, whatever way, government or self. What next? Duration of the degree. How long will I be studying this degree? And the standard duration is 5 years. Okay. And in these 5 years, we will be studying core architecture courses, e.g., design principles, which is the fundamental concepts and rules that guide the creation of architecture designs, ensuring they are functional, aesthetically pleasing, and structurally sound. Okay. You also study construction technology, which is the study of techniques, tools, and materials that are used in the building process, including methods for constructing buildings efficiently, safely, and sustainably. Then, architecture history, we talked about. We also have urban planning, where the process of designing and organizing the development of cities and towns, including the land use, infrastructure, zoning, environmental considerations, in order to improve the quality of life for those residents. Then you also have environmental design, where is the practice of designing buildings and spaces that are suitable, energy efficient, and environmentally responsible, often integrating natural elements and minimizing harm to the ecosystems. Let alone, you'll have to do electives, that is, you select something that has really fascinated you or something you really want to pursue even in the future. And some of this is the sustainable architecture, which is a design approach that emphasizes energy efficiency, the use of sustainable materials, and environmental friendly practices aiming to reduce a building's ecological footprint. You can also do building information modeling, which you call the BIM, which is a digital technology that allows architects, engineers, and the construction professionals to actually create and manage detailed 3D models of buildings, integrating information about structure, materials, systems, and performance. Okay, you can also decide to do architectural photography, whereby you the art of photographing buildings and structures, capturing their design, form, and aesthetic qualities for documentation, marketing, or even artistic purposes. Then, in your final year, you'll have a research project or a thesis, whereby students will be required to complete a research project or thesis based on an architectural topic. Okay, so basically, a design project is a comprehensive assignment where these students will conceptualize and will create architecture designs, applying the principles they have learned in their coursework to real world scenarios. Okay, so at that, we get into the admission timeline. So students will typically start the program in the September of the admission year, and then after 5 years, you graduate in the November or December of your final year, and of course, you'll earn the title architects. But here's the catch: you are not yet certified. Yes, you have your degree, but you are not a certified architect as per the laws of the land. So, how do I become a certified architect? First things first is that you have to complete bachelor's of architecture program. Okay, so you graduate from a university that has been accredited by the Architectural Association of Kenya, the AAK, and all those universities I've stated are accredited by AAK. From there, you enroll in a professional training program. So you apply for a professional training program, which will involve working in an accredited architectural firm for a minimum of 2 years. This internship will provide practical experience and exposure to architectural practice. Okay, then you have to pass the professional exams. So after completing the professional training, one must pass the Architectural Association of Kenya professional exams, which test skills in design, building regulations, and the professional practice. And finally, you will have what we call certification and registration, whereby upon passing the exams, you can now apply to be registered with the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, which is called the BORACS. Okay, so after registration now, you're officially recognized as a certified architect and you can actually practice independently. So this is usually the catch. Once you're done with your degree, it's not yet over. You still have to go on and become a certified architect if you want to practice independently. So what next after my degree? I now have my degree. What will I do with it? So you can actually decide to go to private practice, whereby you will be an after registration, you can start your own architectural firm or work as a freelance architect. Okay, so you'll involve managing design projects, interacting with clients, and overseeing constructions. Okay, you can decide to go and work with architectural firms, whereby you join an established architectural firm already as an employee. You focus on design, planning, and overseeing projects in various sectors like residential, commercial, or even urban development. Okay, and then There's a career progression there because you will start as an architect and potentially move into senior positions like project manager, senior architect, or even a principal architect. You can also decide to go to urban planning and design, whereby as an architect you will specialize in urban design and planning, where you will focus on the development and planning of cities, towns, and neighborhoods to include considerations of infrastructure, transportation, zoning, and sustainability. You can even work with city planning departments, e.g., the National Environment Management Authority (NEMA), or even the county governments. You also decide to do construction and project management, whereby you use your architectural background to manage large scale construction projects. You oversee all aspects from design and budgeting to implementation and delivery. Okay, you work in construction management, you liaise between contractors, engineers, and clients to ensure that designs are executed as planned and within the budget. You can also decide to go to sustainable architecture and green building design, whereby you will specialize in eco-friendly design and green building practices. You'll focus on energy efficient designs, renewable energy, waste management, and sustainable construction materials. Okay, and then you can also decide to go to interior design and space planning, whereby you, although not the same as the interior design we know, interior architecture will involve designing the interior spaces of buildings within a focus on functionality, aesthetics, and the building structural layout. Okay, so you focus on designing office spaces, corporate environments, retail interiors to create that functional aspect of it. You can also decide to go to academic and research, whereby after gaining experience, you can teach architecture at universities or colleges, which may actually require additional qualifications such as a master's degree or a PhD. And then you also have to do research. You engage in architecture research, you focus on emerging trends, sustainability, or even technological innovations in construction. Good. You can decide to go to real estate development, whereby use your architectural background to engage in real estate development, including land acquisition, designing buildings, and managing construction projects. So, as a project development manager, you oversee and coordinate the design and construction process for real estate projects, managing teams, and ensuring projects are delivered on time and within the budget. Okay. You can also decide to go to government and public sector roles, whereby you work in various government departments, including ministries of public works, housing, and transport, contributing to the design and construction of government buildings, infrastructure, and urban planning projects. You can even decide to be a local government architect, whereby you work with your local county government to design public buildings, schools, hospitals, and other community infrastructure. Finally, you can decide to go to consultancy, whereby you offer advice to other architects, construction firms, or developers, focusing on specific areas such as design, sustainability, or building regulations. And finally, you can decide to go abroad. International opportunities are very many. You become a global architect. You work with international architecture firms on large-scale global projects such as urban redevelopment, cultural centers, or infrastructure projects. Okay, or even work with the NGOs, whereby you contribute to social development projects in different parts of the world, designing sustainable housing or community spaces in underdeveloped areas. So with all this, it means that we actually have a very good degree here, because there's so much you can do with it. There is so much you can do with it with this particular degree, and therefore, again, once more, I encourage you to go for it. It's a nice degree, a superb one, and with that, it takes us to the very end. Remember, architecture is a nice career. Success in your endeavors, and please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, so that more of these videos can actually be notified. You can be able to be notified when we upload such videos in the future. Have it nice and see you next time.